Welcome to Turning the Page, a Lexington Public Library podcast. I'm Mariam Adarat.
And I'm Erin West. If you love the library because of books, the programs, and the people behind both, then this is the podcast for you.
And even if you don't, there's still fun to be had. We will bring you the latest book releases that are worth checking out, figuratively and literally.
And we will discuss all of the happenings at the library to look out for.
And of course, what would a library podcast be without a special guest? We will get to know some special authors that are making an impact on our local literary scene.
Whether you're listening to us in your car while washing dishes or snuggled up with a warm drink, we are grateful for your time and hope you enjoy.
On today's episode, we're welcoming Anthony Gray, an attorney with 18 years of criminal and civil litigation experience and the author of the debut thriller Torrent. The novel follows attorney Samuel Ross on a memorial hike that spirals into a deadly battle for survival in Canyon Park, blending Gray's legal experience with gripping high-stakes tension. Early reception praises the book's relentless pace and its exploration of justice beyond the courtroom. So, Anthony, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So you've spent many number of years practicing law, and that seems to be a theme lately. A lot of the authors that we've been having on the podcast have practiced law in some form. You practice criminal and civil litigation. How did your legal experience shape the story and the themes of Torrent?
I don't know if that's a reflection on our practice, that there's so many of us writing now as an escape. But yeah, so I have been practicing for about 19 years now. And I think being a litigator, I was a prosecutor here in town for several years. And then I went to the civil side and now I do pharmacy law. So I've kind of seen both ends.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things that prompted me to want to write and how I could use my legal skills is that as you learn, particularly in law school, you learn that everything is not black and white, right?
Yeah.
You see cases in the law where justice doesn't perfectly align. And also you see things where good people sometimes make bad choices.
Yeah.
And so I think that tension between what's legal and what's right is kind of what became kind of the core of Torrent.
Yeah.
And I'm also really fascinated by the fact of strategic thinking. So when we're in law school, they basically teach us a lot of stuff that we don't need to know, right?
Yeah.
But then they also teach us how to think differently and think strategically. And so, when I was a litigator, I was analyzing evidence. I was, trying to anticipate my opponent's moves, and finding kind of weaknesses in their arguments. It's kind of what we do as lawyers. And so I thought it would be fascinating to see what would that be like if you put those type of skills in a completely different arena.
Yeah.
Right? The things that you learn, for example, in the courtroom, that strategy won't do anything for you when you're in the wilderness, right? It's a completely different thing. So I was kind of fascinated to see if when you use those skills and that mental discipline and that strategic thinking, what would it be like if it was in a completely different setting?
Yeah.
So that was kind of the things that prompted me to do it.
Awesome.
Torrent.
So your main character in Torrent, his name is Samuel Ross. What kind of inspired his story? He goes through this really traumatic experience with the loss of his wife and someone that is kind of grounded in logic and, like you talked about, courtroom strategy. How did you take that into sort of like the survival scenario, which is way kind of outside of the whole legal system that you know and that Sam knows?
I think at the core, I think it came when I was trying to build Samuel as a character. I wanted to know what happens when you kind of strip away all the systems a person relies on, right? Because Samuel lives in a world of rules, procedures, court proceedings, but he's also grieving the loss of his wife, Monica, and he's struggling with guilt and questioning pretty much everything. But he still kind of has that professional framework that's kind of like anchoring him. So I thought, what if you take all of that away? And what if he's thrown into a situation where his legal expertise means nothing, and where survival is kind of the only law?
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I was thinking of with Samuel, but kind of more importantly than that was kind of this idea of redemption through action. He's paralyzed by grief, obviously, but is he really living? You know, he's haunted by the memories of his wife, about things that he couldn't prevent or couldn't fix, and then all of a sudden he's faced with this present evil that he can't stop out in the wilderness. So, and he's got victims that he could possibly save. So I think that transformed him into something that he could never imagine being. And I think that's where the real story lives. It's like in that transformation.
Yeah. And there is a big transformation, like an emotional and psychological one. What was your idea behind that transformation? And then the other thing I wanted to ask is, he believed very much into, that justice happens in the courtroom. But now he's thrown into a situation where it's kind of like, okay, where he has to make a judgment about justice and morality in those gray areas, and that he has to wrestle with.
Right.
So how did you deal with that transformation and take the reader to come along with you? Yeah.
I definitely wanted to explore kind of, when you talk about transformation, when you talk about one central element I wanted to talk about was grief.
Yeah.
Because grief can destroy you. And I wanted to see that you can forge into something what if you are put into something unexpected? And that's what happens with Samuel.
Yeah.
So I wanted to write about someone who discovers that the only way out of the pain is through action and through sacrifice and through becoming more than they ever thought that they could be.
Yeah.
And it's not about forgetting what happened to Monica, but it's about how do you move past her death. And it's about obviously honoring her memory, but like refusing to let that evil go unchecked. And to me, that's the redemption.
Yeah.
And it's not erasing the past, but it's letting it propel you forward into meaningful action. And so that is kind of what I was thinking when I was writing Samuel and thinking about the transformation, kind of taking something, tragic and horrific, and how you can use it to forge you to be better.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what I was looking at. I mean, I think as far as Samuel's development as a character, I didn't want him to be, he's not Jason Statham, I didn't want him to be like,
avenging.
Out in there, just all of a sudden he's like, picking up sticks and doing all this crazy stuff. I wanted it to be real, and I wanted it to focus on that grief, because that grief anchors him in a way.
Yeah.
But it also propels him in a way as well when he makes that critical decision, when he's battered and beaten at the bottom of the canyon. And it's like, do I go get help, or do I go try to rescue Colette and Shannon? So I think the ultimate thing that I would want the readers to see with Samuel's journey is that kind of every step of that journey in the wilderness mirrors an internal struggle that he's dealing with. He's learning through this process to forgive himself and to find purpose again.
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen cleanly.
No, it does not. You mentioned the canyon, and the setting of this book is called Canyon Park, and it's a huge role in the story's tension, this wilderness. What inspired you to use this wilderness as both like a literal and metaphorical battleground, basically? And is Canyon Park a real place?
I think there's a place I think that exists called Canyon Park. I think it might be in Arizona or Utah, but in my mind, it was a fictional place, right? So in my imagination, yes, it's a real place. But right, it to me, it plays a huge part in that tension, and like the trail that they take is called Redemption Trail, So I was kind of like, it's a whole character within itself, right?
Yes. And this is a theme I find with a lot of the authors that we've interviewed, is they use setting as a character. And this very much comes through when you're describing the wilderness.
Yeah.
You can feel it in the evilness of what's happening in the wilderness, and what's happening to the women and all of that. So you've done that beautifully. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's thank you. I appreciate that. That's what I was trying to get at. I mean, I grew up in a small town here in Kentucky, so I would play outside a lot and everything like that. But I think that one thing that always fascinated me about nature is that it's indifferent to human struggles, right? So, it's like, and also for Samuel, like you said, the wilderness is a mirror for him, right? He's stripped of all of the courtroom stuff and all of the skills and, all the fancy things that he's kind of learned to adapt has become a part of him. And I think being stripped of that is kind of cleansing, right? It's unforgiving, but but in a cleansing way.
Yeah.
And so I think his physical survival kind of parallels his emotional survival. Like they both require him to shed who he is and like discover what he needs to become. And then, as you said, it's just Canyon Park is kind of the physical manifestation of his psychological state.
Of his inner turmoil.
Yeah, his inner turmoil,
yeah. So you, in your author's bio, you kind of mention balancing the different aspects of your life, your legal career, your personal career, et cetera. How did each of those elements kind of influence your writing process?
Well, this was a very deeply personal journey for me. I went through a divorce and being a single father with my two sons, and suddenly I'm juggling a career and high demanding career and a joint custody and trying to be the parent that they deserved while still trying to deal with my grief and my sense of failure. So I think Samuel's journey, like his guilt, his questioning of everything he thought he knew, his struggle to rebuild, that kind of mirrored my own experiences in many ways.
Yeah.
So, I think grief transformed me too, right? And it forced me to become a better father, a better person, and to learn resilience that I didn't know I had, and to show up even when I felt broken. So I think that was kind of my release for me, and writing became a way for me to kind of process the pain and channel it into something productive.
So is writing something new or recent that you did, or have you always been a writer in some way, shape, or form, whether it's published or not?
Yeah, so it's not. It's so when I was a kid, I used to carry, my mom was a college professor at EKU, and she gave me a tape recorder. And I would go around and make stories because I just loved it. So it's funny because now she still has the cassettes and I'll play them and I got the really high voice, you know what I'm doing? And I would just make stories because I had a very vivid imagination and I just loved telling stories. And I had bad outdoor allergies, so I wasn't playing outside as much. But that's kind of how it started. And then I always enjoyed reading. And then my mom would have us read, we would read, a book a month, That's the joys of having an English teacher for a parent. And so I just always enjoyed writing. And then I went to law school. Well, let me backtrack. So I was a journalism major.
Oh, okay.
And so I worked briefly as a journalist. I wrote for the UK. I worked for the Kentucky Colonel and did my brief little stints.
At Kentucky Colonel. Yes.
Yes, there. And I worked for a news organization for a little bit, and then I went to law school, and it just killed my joy for writing and reading. Just like gone. And
this does not have to be the journey of other law students.
No, it doesn't. Don't let me discourage you. But for me, I was like, I don't want to, and so I stepped away from it. And then as my career kept progressing, I would write articles. So when I was like general counsel for the Kentucky Board of Pharmacy, I wrote for the National Pharmacy Journal, and I would write articles and stuff like that. So I was still writing, but it was in my professional sense, and not necessarily something like personal or fiction that I really enjoyed doing. So when I was going through my divorce, I was seeing a therapist, and my therapist said, you're really good, and I think we can stop. And I was re-traumatized. I'm like, so now you're leaving me? Like, this can't be. And he's like, well, what's something that you like to do? I was like, well, I love writing, but I was like, I just never had time. He's like, well, why don't you start writing? And I had these characters in the back of my mind for a long time. And I would start you know how things go. You would kind of start writing some things,
Yeah.
and then you just leave it.
Yeah.
And then like I would write what I'm preparing now for my second book, which I'm almost done with, is like I would have those ideas and you just sit them. So I just sat down and started writing, and it took me almost 2 years.
Okay.
But then I was finally able to get it out there, and then I said, well, you know, I'm just going to put it out there.
Yeah.
And so I self-published, and then throughout the process, I ended up getting a literary agent, and so stuff like that. So that was just kind of the journey.
Yeah. And I came across your book before you had contacted me in Book Life, which is, of course, the Publishers Weekly independent arm. I read the review, and I don't think it mentioned that you were from Kentucky in the author's bio. I don't believe, but... And then when you had reached out, I was like, oh my gosh, I just finished reading the summary of this book. So yeah, that's amazing. So this is, of course, your debut novel.
Yes.
What surprised you the most about the writing and the publishing process?
Well, I think the writing was just it was just such a great release that I enjoyed it more than anything. You know, just that feeling of, you know, I would wake up in the middle of the night because I would hear characters talking, you know, and I would just have to like get that out.
When you started writing, did those voices come to you at a higher pace or like a higher volume than before?
They started coming as I was in the process more frequently. You know, initially I kind of had ideas.
Yeah.
Because you kind of model things after people you know. Obviously, Samuel's modeled after me, you know, and stuff like that. And so, but then I started, you know, as I was getting into the writing, especially with Tim and Buck and all of those, and I was like really starting to hear them and hear their voices and their perspectives, because I wanted them all to be full-dimensional characters. You know, I just didn't want like some like cartoon villain, you know, or something. You know, I wanted them to be kind of well-rounded. So I would hear them, and they would come to me. So I would get up and write, you know, when that would happen. So I think that was the exciting process. I think the harder process for me has been like trying to put it out there and going to book signings. You know, it was just, it's very. I had my first book signing at Joseph Beth back last spring, and I had, you know, shared the Facebook link and stuff. And so my mom had shared it with everybody that like my teachers from high school that were still in Richmond and all her friends. And so when I came to the book signing, we all came. I came with them and my fiance, and I was like, what are these people lined up for? And I get to the table and they're like, hey, they're lined up for you. And it was just like, I started sweating, you know, because I was like, oh gosh.
It becomes real.
Yeah, it was real. So I think that has been the most challenging process for me, is just the marketing and the publicizing and, you know, just getting out there and talking. When I was trying to get a literary agent, talking to different people and pitching, you know, and
all the peripherals of publishing a book.
That was the difficult part, but the writing was obviously the most rewarding.
Of course, yeah. So the positive response to this book, do you see Samuel's journey kind of continuing in future books? You talked about a second book. Is there a sequel, or have you laid him to rest?
No, he's definitely not laid to rest. He's still whispering a lot in my ear. I do have another book. It's going to be a collection of 3 short horror stories that center around sin.
Okay.
I'm going to pick a sin for each one, and they all take place here in Kentucky. So that has been, again, something that has been on my mind. So I'm correlating that and putting the finishing touches on that one. And then, I can definitely, I have some ideas. You know, I kind of left it open to do some more exploring. Samuel's journey is not done. Yeah. And I definitely want to
that's
explore
exciting.
further. Yeah.
That's exciting. So we recently started doing a rapid fire question element to the interviews in our podcast. So if you are game,
sure.
I'd like to do it. Okay. So the first question, coffee or tea?
Tea.
Writing early in the morning or late at night?
Late at night.
Late at night.
Yeah.
Do you have like a specific writing schedule, like
so,
or whenever the whim kind of?
Whenever it was. So I did a lot for this book. It was a lot of writing when they were asleep,
Yeah.
when I put them down, or, if I was at a game that that was boring me, I would pull out the tablet. But I don't know. I kind of get my second wind at night once I shut the work laptop and they're in bed and I start writing.
Okay. So your favorite spot to write in Lexington or in Kentucky in general?
Oh, my bed. No, but other than that, I love being outside. So I would go to Natural Bridge a lot and write, or the Pinnacles. Because for this book particularly, when the weather was nice, I wanted to feel
Be in
it.
the wilderness.
I wanted to hear it. I wanted the wind on my face. Just kind of, I wanted to hear the trees. Yeah. That's kind of where I like to write.
Nice. A book you wish you could read again for the first time? You mentioned you were a reader.
Oh, again for the first time. I would probably say, there's so many. A book that I love is Beloved.
Beloved.
And I would I can read that anytime, all the time.
Yeah.
It has resonance, even now.
Yeah. And it's grounded in truth. So, yeah. A character you relate to most from your own writing, like Samuel?
Well, yeah, it's obviously, it's Samuel. I wish I had the looks of Buck, but no, it's Samuel for sure.
Your favorite snack while writing?
M&Ms, but they have to be caramel M&Ms.
Caramel M&Ms.
Yes.
I've never tried those.
That's the only ones I like.
Never had those. What's one thing you always edit out of your books?
Well, I don't know if I edited it all out, but I really try to clean the language. But I also want to be
authentic,
real to the character. But in the back of my mind, I'm always like, my mom's going to be reading this. But I don't. If it works for the character, I'm going to keep it in. But I'm kind of cognizant of that.
If Torrent had a theme song, what would it be?
Probably Eye of the Tiger.
Eye of the Tiger. That's a good one. Yeah. Yeah, I can see that working.
Yeah.
I can see that working. If you weren't a writer or an attorney, what job would you try?
There's a couple. So I would love to be like a travel guide. Like I would just love to do that. Like if, going through kind of like this or somewhere exotic, I think that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Another thing I would love to do is be an airline pilot.
Airline pilot?
I just would, that would probably help my flight anxiety as if I was in the drive, actually flying a plane.
Just face your fears head on, right? Last one. What's the best compliment a reader could give you?
I would say the best compliment that they could give me is that they read my book.
No, just read your book.
Just read it.
Whether they liked it or not, just read it.
And I welcome all the feedback. But if they just took the time to read it, that means a lot to me.
Well, on that note, I read it and I really did enjoy it. So good luck with your other books. So thank you so much for doing these rapid fire questions and the interview. We really enjoyed talking to you, and we hope you come back after your book is released.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Well, that's exciting about Anthony's book and his upcoming release. I'm really looking forward to reading it. And you can get a copy of this book at your favorite bookstore or wherever you get your books. And you can also check it out at our library. So yeah, that was really enjoyable.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that interview.
Awesome. So for books.
This
books. Month, exciting stuff that is coming out. Publishing season is revving up. Just as it always does in the spring or upcoming spring. So there's a lot of books that are coming out that I have on my TBR list. The first one is called Cleopatra. It's by Sarah Al-Arifi. I think she's a British author. She's released a few like fantasy type books.
Yeah.
This one is more historical fiction.
Oh, cool.
It's about Cleopatra, told from the first person narrative, and the story is told from her point of view, and it delves into the relationship between her and her siblings, and then her rise into power. I know that like traditionally, Cleopatra's story is told, she's kind of portrayed as this like femme fatale, this really like powerful leader. This one is kind of more personal
Yeah.
very relatable person. So I'm looking forward to finishing that one. So
I'm
that's
going to have to check that one out. Because when I was little, I was obsessed with that, like, Princess Diaries book, like the little green one of Cleopatra, and it was, like, written like diary entries. I loved it. I read it like 4 or 5 times.
I think you would totally like this one. Yeah, she, like I said, she writes more fantasy type books, a la Rifi.
Cool,
So
yeah.
I had started reading it thinking maybe I want to get into that genre a little bit, but it's not. It's totally historical fiction, kind of told from Cleopatra's point of view.
Awesome.
The other book that I really cannot wait until it comes out is called Ruins by Lily Brooks Dalton. So this one is about a professor, archaeology. So her name is Ember Agnew, and she's sort of this like rising star in her field, and she's really obsessed with finding the secret city, like a secret like world that she's kind of researching for. And it becomes kind of like this obsession about this lost empire. So she's about to give up on this expedition, but then she gets a message from a former student that he claims that he found something extraordinary about this lost city.
Oh, cool.
And her drive for it is revved back up. And she gets so immersed in it that she kind of loses track of her other life, the other aspects of her life. So, yeah, it's just kind of like this dogged pursuit of the civilization kind of, and her life is kind of spiraling out of control too. So it's a balance for her that she is losing, basically. So I'm really looking forward to reading this one. She wrote the book called The Light Pirate.
Okay.
That was really good. I really enjoyed that one. So I'm looking forward to this one. The next few are more nonfiction. So, of course, this summer, the World Cup is coming up, and I'm a soccer fiend. I love watching soccer. So there is a book called The World Cup, A History of the Planet's Biggest Sporting Event. And it kind of talks about the history of the World Cup, how it became popular, how it gripped the nation during World War II, and how it was, put on pause during the wars. But each World Cup that comes every 4 years has its own story. So it really delves into the different World Cups. So I'm really looking forward to reading that one. And then there are 2 books coming out about Amelia Earhart. And it kind of reminded me about Wayne, our former colleague. Wayne, he loves the story, anything to do with Amelia Earhart.
He
He loves to research her life and just her impact as short of a life as it is. The first one is called Oceans to Cross, Amelia Earhart's Extraordinary Life and Her Fight for Women's Rights. So this is more of her like activism. Okay, cool. Kind of delves into that side of her life. The other one is called Lost, Amelia Earhart's 3 Mysterious Deaths and 1 Extraordinary Life. So Rachel Hartigan, she is a National Geographic reporter. She kind of, does her research into Earhart's disappearance, and it also kind of discusses the people that are around her.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to reading that one. That one's getting a lot of buzz.
Very cool.
One more nonfiction book that I have because I'm a mother of a picky eater.
Yes.
There's a book coming out in February called Picky, How American Children Became the Fussiest Eaters in History. And that one I was like, oh my God, I feel attacked. I feel attacked.
No, I feel the same. I feel, mine started out, she would eat a huge variety of things. But as she's steadily gotten older, that's gotten smaller and smaller and smaller. Like, how does this happen?
Yes. So this kind of delves into why American children are such picky eaters. Because, like, historically, children, you didn't hear that. You know, children just ate when they were hungry, and know. So it delves into that, and it does kind of veer into the American child's habit of snacking. So a little bit of that too. So it kind of shows you that how fussy eating became kind of defined as children's food. Yeah. This is a picky eater's kind of food, like your chicken nuggets or whatever. Yeah. But yeah, it's kind of delves into that and why children are so picky. Yes. Please tell me why. Please. Yeah. So it's very nonfiction heavy this month, but I'm excited. There's amazing. A lot of good books coming out in late February and in March. So keep an eye out.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
On our catalog.
Yeah.
What do we have going on in programming?
So we've got a few things coming up in March. The first one is Beaumont's Crafternoon. The Saturday session is on March 7th at 3. And they're doing a paint with buttons program. So you use buttons to fill in the picture or create your own design. So I think that'll be really cool. That's for ages 8 and up. So that's fun for the whole family. We are doing something cool this year. We are partnering with Indie Lens as one of their pop-up screening locations.
Oh, wow.
And so
what's Indie Lens?
So it is inspired by the documentaries featured on PBS's Independent Lens. Indie Lens pop-up strengthens community connections and provides free public spaces for everyone to meet, talk, and take action. And they partner with local organizations across the country to bring people together for film screenings and community-driven conversations. So we will be having more of these for the 2025-26 season of Indie Lens.
Nice.
And on Sunday, March 8th at 2 at the Farish Theater at Central, they're showing The Inquisitor about Barbara Jordan, a civil rights icon whose powerful voice masked a complex private life.
Nice. I love those kind of programs.
Yeah, so that'll be really exciting. And keep your eye out for the later sessions of these two. For the tweens and teens, there's STEM and Stuff Robots on Sunday, March 8th at 3:30 here at Northside. And it's their monthly STEAM club, and it's celebrating Women's History Month and engineer Rosina Bajski by working with robots. And that one does require registration, so make sure you sign up before you come. Marksberry has their Teen Tuesday program. It's mini canvases, and you can paint mini canvases inspired by Yayoi Kusama's bold, iconic style.
Nice.
So that'll be really cool. Eastside has collaged buttons for their workshop. And they're going to transform out-of-circulation books into unique pin-back buttons.
Nice.
So
love
really cool.
a good upcycle the book kind of craft. Yeah.
And in the Kloiber Foundation STEAM Lab at Central for children, tweens, and teens, there's a homeschool STEAM program. So you can learn more about science, technology, engineering, art, and math with their monthly activities. So if you're a homeschooling parent, you can bring your kiddos on over and they can get some of their science credits. So
nice.
Be really cool. There is a first-time homebuyer workshop put on by Reach Inc., and there have been several of these around the system. So the latest installment is going to be Thursday, March 12th at 5 here at Northside Branch.
That should be very informative.
And a very interesting program that I picked up is at Eastside on Saturday, March 14th at 2. It's managing appetite, energy, and well-being after GLP-1 treatment with the Lexington Fayette County Health Department.
Ooh, that's very
timely.
Very timely.
So this one does require registration, but it's tools to help you stay on track and feel confident navigating your life after your GLP-1 treatment. So once you've stopped.
Okay.
And then Saturday, March 14th, we've got junk journals at Central Library, and that one is for tweens to young adults, so 11 to 24, and you can come in at 3 and make a junk journal. So that'll be really
interesting.
Cool. And then
I've never heard of what's a junk journal.
So it's like a scrapbook, but not so formal. So you can have a little book, and people put like receipts in them, just stuff that remind you an event or just something pretty, like if you pick a weed off of the like stick a dandelion and
so it's literally just
for your coffee. Yeah, it can be anything. So it's trying to deformalize the process of a scrapbook where you would lay out a page and this is my life, and I'm just sticking remembrances of my life.
That's actually kind of freeing, because I tried scrapbooking for a while, but it was very constrictive, I felt like.
Yeah, it is.
Because you felt like you had to have it just so, you know, you had to have the right exact kind of crafting supplies. And this one's a little freeing. I think I like that.
Yeah, no, it sounds really fun.
Cool beans.
And then lastly, Saturday, March 21st at 11 at Eastside as well is a miniatures painting workshop. So if you've ever done any sort of tabletop gaming, the little miniatures, there's terrain. So it's how to paint those so that you can get the maximum amount of detail you can.
Oh, that's cool.
Because they're really small. Yeah. I did that once. The library sent me and another person to Gen Con in Indianapolis. And one of the things that we did was a miniature speed paint. And I'd never done this before ever. So mine looked kind of bad. But like the winners, like they had the little tiny lips had like shadows and all sorts of stuff. And I'm just like, how did they do this? So if you want to learn how they do this, you can come to that program. The workshop. That one does have registration, so make sure you sign up before you go.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, good programming lineup. I did want to mention that last episode we had author Wesley Brown, and then in April we're going to have him for a live session. So if you enjoyed that podcast, please join us for the live session at Central on April 4th. Check our website for the exact time.
Yep.
And there will be a book signing. So
it's very exciting. So come see us.
All right. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll see you next time. Thank you for tuning into Turning the Page. If you enjoyed listening, there will be more to come. So please give us a follow so that you don't miss the next episode.
We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts.